Hello, crafty cuties! We're going to do a really fun project today. If you've been following me for a while, or even if you're new and you have been wanting to make a junk journal, but you have just been pretty nervous, maybe overwhelmed because there are so many different tutorials out there, I really think that this is one that you should give a try. I'm going to show you the entire process and from start to finish, completely decorated, and it is going to be something that I think you would be able to get done. I was gonna say in one sitting, but I'm also used to crafting and creating journals, so I'm gonna just try to be a little more realistic and say you can make this at least in one day. And you can use a lot of the things that you've been collecting, like favorite pages or things that you've set aside and didn't know how to use. So we are creating a completely no-sew bound journal today, and I was so inspired by a gift that I received. I did a full flip through of this beautiful journal from Fatima at the Magnolia Seed, so if you want to see that flip through, I'll have it linked below. Gorgeous journal, and she sent me a tutorial that I kind of peeked through and got some tips and tricks. I'll link that below as well. But now I'm just going to take that information and create my own along with you. Let's go over supplies real quick, and then I promise we will jump right into it. So for this journal, you can create any size you want. I love the size that I received, so I'm going to make mine close to this, and that is going to be 5 inches by 8 inches. And for this journal, you can use single pages. So in a lot of the bound sewn journals that you see created, we are creating signatures, which can make it a little tricky because you kind of have to do the math and figure out where you need to fold this and that. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit. It's not really that hard, but again, if you're new, I think it might be a little easier to work with single pages. With that said, your pages can also be a variety of sizes for this journal. And when I say no sew, I really mean no sew. We're not using a needle. We're not using thread to bind it. We are using masking tape. Now, if you don't have this exact tape, you can use different tapes. In the tutorial, I'll go over why I think this one's gonna work good. And mine is only, I think this is like 1/2 inch. I honestly would say that even an inch would be great, maybe even easier to work with, but 1/2 inch is gonna be fine too. So masking tape, again, you can use other tapes, but you do want to make sure that it's a very sturdy tape because this is our binding. Okay, so now that I have my size picked out, 5 by 8, I know that I want all of my pages to be 5 by 8 or under. So I have a little pile of just favorite things that I've set aside for a long time. We're gonna go through together real quick and just pick what I'm actually going to use as my journal pages. And I honestly would recommend around 20 pages or less for your first time making this. You can do more or less, but that's just what I'm going to suggest to you. You can use folded pages, and I don't want that to be confusing, but like I mentioned, your journal can be all completely single pages. I just happen to have a few that were already folded, and I'm gonna show you how to use those as well, and that's gonna create like an extra little flip anyways. So this is going to, I think, be my cover. It's actually a manila envelope. So you'll see then if you have larger pages, think outside the box because you can fold them, or you can fold over a piece to create a little pocket. Like for instance, this one was still going to be a little too wide. So I just folded over the excess and I will like attach this to create a little pocket. Let's see. I'm not going to worry about decorating right now, and I know that I'm planning to use like these 3 things as my decorations for the cover, so I'm going to set those aside for now so that we can mostly focus on the construction. And see, I have a lot of these types of things where I make a project and it's so pretty, so I set it aside. I don't know what to do with it. I'm using a lot of those types of things in my journal. I did just realize that this had a little flip and I forgot about that, but that's fine. I have some wallpaper. We'll need to cut that one down. treat bags are great. I can tell that. So basically I'm gonna start my pile here, and anything that is bigger I'll set to the right so we can trim. Anything that's smaller, we can just leave it as is. I have a little set of journaling cards sewn together. This is from one of the journal kits I've been using from Kara Brandon. It's her Rainbow Palette kit. I'm also using some things that I got from Happy Mail from Foraged Relics, so thank you to you because I am loving the things you sent me. She sells little like ephemera packs and journal packs in her Etsy shop. I have an envelope. I'm going to try to go a little quicker. I have this little like die cut and time card. It'll need to be trimmed a bit. Another envelope, another envelope. I just love envelopes. Another envelope. Oh, this is actually, okay, this is more of a, I'm going to set this aside because this might be something I decorate with. And I do have a little pile of some extra papers and things that I might decorate with. Also some extra pages that if I want to cover a side of my page, I can. I have a tag, some Edith Holden pages, and some other various pages that need to be trimmed down. So we're going to start with that first. Okay, so this pile is ready to go. I think I'm just going to, I don't want to get my trimmer out, so I'm going to use just my ruler to trim things down. I forgot I had this snake page, and if you don't know, I love snakes, so I am going to use that. I'm going to use this page since it's the exact size of what I want, no bigger than, and I'm going to use this as my guide to trim these down. I'm going to trim a few with you, and then I'll just do the rest off camera. So I'm just using this as my guide for, okay, well, we're just going to kind of guesstimate. Feel free to trim your pages down however you want. This is kind of a thicker page, so I am just going to keep it a single-sided page. So if you do have pages that are just a single-sided paper, then you can totally cover the other side, and I'll show you. We'll do that at some point. Okay, I just want at least one of these little sneakies to be showing. This is like the lazy method to trimming papers. It's not going to be perfect, but that's fine with me. Okay, we'll set that. This just needed to be trimmed down a little bit. So actually this is one example where instead of trimming off the excess, you could just fold up or over to the back and create a little pocket. I'll go through and attach anything like this a bit later. You know what, these are so close in same size that I might actually just use this on here as kind of like a little pocket. So I'm just going to set those together. Again, I'm going to attach or glue anything a bit later. This is some pretty wallpaper I have. Honestly, I could almost use this to cover the back of this if I wanted. But for now, I think I'll just fold it over. Just trying to get that folded as even as I can. So again, I love like ledger paper. And so since this is folded, I think in its perfect size, instead of tearing it into a single side, I am just going to keep it folded. And again, when we get to the binding, I'll show you, but there's really no difference in how we treat that. Okay, so let's see. I just have this wallpaper, and I am going to trim this one down. Pretty. Ooh, this looks nice against this color here. So actually, I am going to take advantage of that, and right now we are going to get started with the decorating our pages and prepping them for binding. Now, you can do your decoration after you bind, before. I'm just going to get started with it now, but I will do the the final decorations on the cover at the end. Okay, and I will just trim off the excess here. Okay. Now I'm just gonna go back through my pile one more time to see if I did want to add any pockets or glue anything on the backs of anything. This one I think I will just keep. That sounded questionable. I do have a lot of tags over here. I could turn a tag into a pocket or something like that. Okay, you know what? We're gonna make use of some of our things that we have. I have so many Tim Holtz ephemera pieces, so I am actually just gonna glue this on as a little side pocket sort of thing. I don't want to add too many decorations, but I want it to be fun and interesting. And like I said, I have so many things that I'm always just setting aside and wanting to use, and I never do because I'm just waiting for the right perfect time. So this is going to be that time. Okay, we have this wallpaper. You know what? I'm actually going to tear this off because I want this to be a bottom pocket. So I'm just going to glue. It could be fun to go to your sewing machine and sew things on, but because I really wanted this to be a completely no-sew project, I'm also just not going to use the sewing machine for anything like that. Okay. So let me think of how, I think for this, I'm going to just glue around the 3 edges of the time card. Be easier than precisely gluing the die cut, I think. And then try to line that up best I can. And the top, whoops, a little tricky just because it was longer, but I'm just going to make it work. In fact, I might use my staple at the top because I need to trim off the excess here, but we really want to keep this project easy going, not stressful. And so I do recommend, if this will be your first time, just keep it simple. Don't overthink, you know, your decisions on decorating. And if anything, I would suggest going more simple versus decorated, because again, you can always decorate it once it's bound together. And I think for a lot of people, the binding is what is like kind of terrifying. And if you're new and if you have some feedback on that, feel free. Please let me know what you are most nervous about. Now, I don't want to do too much extra decorating right now, but because this is blank back here, I wanted just to take one stencil. I'm using a pink ink, and you're probably shaking all over the place up there. That's okay. We can fill these pockets with fun things later. But that gives me a little base, I guess you could say, to begin with. Okay. This page I'm just going to keep how it is. I have this tag here, and part of me wants to check. I have a few little spots in my craft room that have little bits and pieces that I've been kind of holding on to for a while. Let's go like this. And I'm just going to staple that bottom piece on. Don't be scared to use staples. Unless, of course, you don't like the look. That's fine if you don't. Remember, we're going to see the back. So I'm thinking I'm just going to completely glue this pretty little envelope down. Okay. Set that down. Okay, the envelopes, I'm just going to keep those as is. This has a pretty liner, so I'm just going to keep that as is. I can add some things to it again later. yeah, I think the rest of everything else is good to go. So now let's pick the order that we want to put this stuff in. You know what, I forgot. I have 2 Tim Holtz papers, and I kind of wanted to use, I think I'll use this one. I could use that. Okay, now it's like I am overthinking, so actually we're just going to leave those out because, yeah, we don't need to overthink this. Okay, I want this to be my cover. Again, I'm going to decorate it, but I'm going to do that later. So I'm going to keep this the back of it, though. So I like to alternate sizes, and so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to pick a smaller piece. And we don't have to exactly figure out where we want to place it right now, but you can start thinking about that. And what I mean is, do you want it all the way down to line up with the bottom, line up with the top, or somewhere in the middle? So just, you can kind of start thinking about that, but we have time. I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do this fun decorated envelope. Like that. Just kind of thinking this through. Okay, now I do feel like I want a bigger piece. So I'm going to trim this. Funny enough, I have my trimmer right below where you can't see. I just didn't want to bring it in the camera view, so it shakes my whole table. So, okay, we're going to put this down. I'm putting these all face down, I guess. I couldn't quite remember. We'll do this one next. Do the wallpaper. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do a couple smaller ones. I might leave some of these out because now I'm realizing this is a lot, but that's okay. I noticed that one of my pages is upside down. Not a big deal, but it does bother me. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue this envelope just down to this. So just keeping in mind that you can have layered pages. Like if you already have pockets or embellishments, things like that, that's gonna be okay. Yep, I'm just gonna do that right there. Okay, much happier with that. And then we'll do the wallpaper, and then I think that I will do the envelope just as it is. In fact, we could, I'm gonna leave the tag out now. It's just kind of not fitting in exactly how I want it. But because I'm wanting so much interest, I am gonna glue this Tim Holtz journaling card just right on the back, just to add something a little bit more fun. And then I would recommend for your back page, you don't have to do this, but I would recommend to have one of your larger pages. Let's see, did she? Yeah, she did this too. And I think it's just going to give your journal more of a journal look and more of a nice like base to work in the journal. But again, that's not a hard rule, okay? You don't have to follow that. You can try something different. Let me just trim this one down right below here as well. So I'm just trimming it down to 5 by 8. So our front and our back are 5 by 8. Everything else in between is going to be within that. And if you see, I didn't cut everything perfectly, so some are a little bit bigger, shorter, taller, whatever. I'm not worried about that. Okay, let's now start with our binding. Remember, we're going to decorate the cover at the end. I'm going to explain why later. I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to start with the back pages first. So you're going to have this in the order that you want, and let me just do a quick little flip through so I can show you. Remember, this one was folded, but you can kind of just like try to erase that out of your mind for now. And I'm going to flip through once just real quick with you to make sure that everything's facing the exact way that I want it to when I flip through it. So yes, yes. Of course, you'll be able to do this when you get to the binding, but for me, it seems a little bit easier to do right now, so I don't have to like try to think backwards. Okay. Oops, glue. Yes, okay. So this is going to be the last page. In fact, maybe I'll have the prettier flower side out. We'll do that. You can have decorations on your back page too. That's just an option, but for now, we're not going to. Okay, so you are going to have it flipped over, face down, and we are going to take our back page and just flip it over. And then we're going to take the next page that's in line. We're not going to flip it over. We're going to move this whole pile kind of, I'll try to keep it in your view, but you're going to take your second to last page. You want them right next to each other, just as if they are facing exactly how they would if your book was open, if that makes sense. You want to decide where you want it along this line. And I try to keep the smallest space in between, because now we're going to take our masking tape, and this is where we are going to start our binding. I'm going to find that opening here. You can get masking tape at the Dollar Tree. I got this at Fred Meyer for like 49 cents. Okay, one sec, luckily you can tear masking tape if you want, but I'm going to cut it to have a nice sharp edge. And you want your first piece to be just a little bit shorter. And I know this is off camera down here, but you want it a little bit shorter than your smallest page. In fact, if you have all pages that are the same size, then I would not tape all the way down the height of it personally. I think you would be fine if you did. But I would keep maybe like 1/4 of an inch free at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to try to do that with my smallest page. And that doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. So we are simply going to tape these together just exactly as it is. Now, if this takes a minute to kind of get set up, don't feel bad. It's probably going to take me a few tries. I'm going to give you one little tip that I think makes it a little bit easier, because it can be hard to try to tape these together without things like moving around, and you do want it to be on here pretty straight so that your page flips nicely. So one little tip that I'm going to suggest is just worrying about getting your tape on one page at a time. And I am trying to get this on here so that half the tape is on this side, and then I have half the tape left. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but now what you can do is tape it straight down. And if it's easier for you to flip over, I just don't want you to get confused about which direction your pages are. So just be careful if you do this, and that might be silly to say, but things can get confusing when you are flipping things around, but it can, I think, be a little easier to take this page and put it onto the tape rather than putting the tape onto the page, because the tape's not going to move around. I have the smallest little space in between those two. You probably can barely even see that on camera. But quickly, I'm flipping it back over so that it will be the right orientation, because I don't want to get mixed up. Now, test this out, fold your page over, and that folded nicely. I'm sure I'm going to have a time in here where it's going to not fold nicely, and that's where I'm going to suggest taking it off and doing it again. It might seem frustrating, but I think you're going to get it down. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but again, the more perfect it is, the better your journal is going to open and close. We're taking the next page in line, and again, looking at it as if it were an open journal on your desk. I'm going to grab about the same size of tape. So again, this isn't going to be all the way top to bottom. It's going to be about 1/4 of an inch shorter on each side of the smallest page. I'm going to try to just put the tape down, but we'll see how well that goes. and it's like I can already feel that page kind of moving a bit. I'll see. That I think that's gonna, I mean, that would work, but there's a bit too much of a space. So I really think that I will just probably continue suggesting, and since it's masking tape, see, some papers might stick to it, some might not. So let me see, because I think I might start over with a new one just because it kind of ripped my page a little bit. It's totally okay. Now the reason why I think masking tape is perfect for this is like a matte tape, so you can easily paint over it, ink over it, glue papers down to it, and it's not gonna, it has like a rougher texture, so it's going to work good for that. Okay, so we're gonna put that tape on best I can as half, and then I'm gonna flip it over because I do think this is the easiest, and I even have like shaky hands. You just barely want a space between the two pages, and then press that down, or you can make sure that it folds good before you do the pressing it down, but I think this will be good. Okay, yep. So if you're catching on here, this is what we're doing all the way to the end. And my neck's hurting, so I had to do a quick little movement there. Okay, so now I'm going to get an even smaller piece because I'm working with a smaller page here. And so again, it might be easier to put it actually on your smaller piece, or page I should say, rather than the big page. So I'm just gonna go like that. And it is gonna, you know, cover up your page just slightly or take away. So, I mean, you can keep that in mind if you're using certain prints that you don't want to get covered up. But I actually really like the look, and I think that once it's all together, you're not really gonna pay attention to that. But if you don't like it, you can cover it up. You can try this with a clear tape as well. I mean, I definitely think it would work. It's just a matter of choosing a tape that's, I like that this, I can move it around if I need to. Okay, that worked good. So I'm just going to keep on here. You can get a bunch of pieces of tape ready if you want. I'm just putting a few on the edge of my desk. They're all going to be right around the same height, which is, I'm using like about 6 inches. Okay, that was a little longer than I needed, but that's okay. So yeah, if you're adding pages that have pockets, you might just want to keep in mind, if you have a pocket on, it might cover up just a little bit of it. Okay, I definitely think I like this method where we turn it over. Okay. I am trying to line, I hope you can see this. I'm trying, before I'm putting it all the way on the tape, I'm trying to make sure that I'm lining up the top here with the top of this, because these are the same size papers and height. And so it's a little trickier. I honestly kind of like the pages that are shorter because you can't really like mess up the placement. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm just making sure too that these are lined up nice and even before I press it down. I think I'll put it on this side, flip it over, and press it down. Okay, flip that over. Now, it is, the more pages you have, the bulkier this is going to get, but okay, now I have to think this one through real quick, because if I tape this down, it won't tape this, but I'm trying to keep this flap open, like freely moving. I think this is gonna work. I'm just going to do this because then you'll know how it's gonna work. I could tape my envelope on easily this way, but I wanted it to be this way why. That's the way I want it. So let's see here. I'm just going to, okay, well, I could have put that up a bit. So it didn't interfere with our pocket, so that's good. I'm gonna flip it over and flip this over. I think as long as you're flipping both things over, you're gonna be golden. There we go. Okay, now I might have made this tricky because then we have this flap, but that's okay. I'm just gonna keep that down. Now, well, what was my thought process with that? You know what? I'm just gonna make this an actual flip. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So I'm gluing this on as if these were already connected. So I'm just gonna glue like this so that it's also a pocket. I hope that doesn't confuse you. We're just gonna pretend like the envelope was already attached. I think that was my thought process, was that I would use this as a little tuck spot. But since I didn't put it together, we're just putting it together in the midst of binding. Okay, we're gonna just move on just as we've been doing. Oops. I'm gonna set this out. Am I? Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this on a page as more of a decoration. So we're gonna, because it's getting a bit thick and I think I'm liking it how it is, but I'm gonna add that later. Okay, so we're gonna add our tape about halfway on our page. Whoops. Flip it over and flip it over. And see, this is one of my folded pages. So like I mentioned earlier, just try to keep that out of your mind that it's a folded page, because you don't want to do anything different here. You're just attaching it just as if it's a single page, because that's going to still give you the ability to open it up just as if it's in a regular 2 pages, if that makes sense. Okay, we're almost to the front here. So I'm finding that as it gets fuller, it's easier to put the tape on the single page. We're gonna flip it over, flip it over. I'm gonna put it somewhere in the middle here. I am loving this. I'm gonna have to do one of these journals styles for my Patreon members. Oh, I just realized I did tape this on so that, like, when you're opening the journal, you're seeing the back of the treat bag. That's fine though. We'll add, like, maybe this is where I'll add that, or I'll add some decoration. Okay, we have the cover now. And so we don't do anything different here. This is quite a bit thicker, and I did choose a thicker page for my cover on purpose. But again, we don't have to do anything different. Just gonna put my masking tape on. I don't know why, but I love the way that this masking tape looks. So I got, well, I think that's gonna be fine. I got a little wrinkle and I wanted to smooth it out. So we're gonna flip her over. And again, I'm just, since these are about the same size, I am just trying carefully to make sure that the height is about the same. There we go. Did it work? It did. Okay. That is so much fun. Okay, I was about to start gluing, but now that we have everything bound together, oh, see, I skipped one of my rules. If I mentioned a few times now, you want your tape to always be shorter than your shortest page. And this is why we do that, because I skipped that on this one. I was getting a little too excited. And as you see, when I go to open this, the tape down here is attached to this page. No biggie if that happens. Just, we're gonna cut it. And that was pretty easy to cut off. I don't think I made that mistake on any of the others, so everything should turn nice and easy. Fun. on. There we go. Now, you can leave it like this if you like this exposed kind of spine thing here. It's fine. However, I will say over time, I would be a little nervous that, I don't know, it could either come apart or, I mean, it's a little sticky due to the tape. So what I'm going to suggest, and this is what she did as well, we're going to add basically like a little fabric spine. Now she did strips and I think that's super cute. I'm still deciding if I want to do that, or you can do like one strip all the way around. I have some fabrics that I thought looked good, and this is why I wanted to wait to decorate, because I wanted to add the fabric first and then decorate over it. Let's see, do any of these work? I think I might. I kind of like the raw edges with this, so let me see if I can tear this fabric. I'm just gonna, I want the spine to be a little bit shorter, I think, than the height. Okay, I also only want about ½ an inch or so to show on each side. So maybe you'll want like 2 inches wide. Okay, I'm gonna try to straighten this up a bit by just cutting and tearing. I'm just gonna tear this down here real quick. Oops, I had a feeling this fabric, for some reason, I remembered it doesn't like to tear really, but we're gonna try again anyways. Ooh, did I cut that too? Was that not gonna be wide enough, Jessica? I think it might be okay. I'm sorry guys, I need better scissors here. Oh, I say that and then I grab my fabric scissors that I've been using for things other than fabric, so they don't like to work on fabric anymore. Just trying to straighten this up a little bit. For some reason I can't get this fabric very straight. I think I cut that too not wide enough, but that's okay. Hey, we messed up. Just gonna keep that in. I'm gonna come over to my scraps and grab another. You could also use lace, actually. I'm looking real quick over here. I promise I'm coming right back. Things just went a little unplanned. Yeah, you could use a thicker, like ribbon trim kind of thing. I have this hanky that might look pretty cute. Will she tear? I just like tearing fabric because I find that it's the easiest way to give you a straight edge. Okay, yes, we're gonna go with this one. This is a thin fabric, but I think it's gonna be just fine. And again, we want it just a little shorter than the height of your journal. Okay, so this is thin, but that's gonna be fine. I'm gonna use actually my PVA glue. If I can unclog it, that is. I have my PVA glue in this little bottle here. All right, we're going to add our glue. I'm just gonna add some glue along the edge of the front here. We're just gonna glue it down. So if you are doing fabric strips, which again, you totally can, you just will glue each little strip on. I used a lot of glue here. You probably don't need as much as I have. Okay, let's see. Just line it up where you want it. I think something like that will do. And then we're going to flip it over, and we're not going to glue on the actual spine. I could have cut that a little less wide, but that's okay. Wow, I'm being very messy here, and I'm getting glue on all of the pages. Okay, just try to smear that in. I might need a little bit more anyways. And then just bring that over. I wouldn't pull it tight per se, but you know, wrap it around nicely, I guess, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm kind of just before everything dries, I was just wanted to make sure that it still opens nice and flat, because this journal will be able to open nice and flat, which is why I think this is going to be such a fun journal to work in. Okay, I'm just going to cut this little piece off because it's kind of bugging me there. Alrighty. Just a little extra glue right there. All right, let's go ahead now and decorate the cover. You could add closures as well, but I just want this to be nice and easy. I don't want it to have any closures, at least at this point. So, okay, I had this wallpaper picked out. I was thinking I was going to kind of line this on here, and I think I still will. I'm going to trim it a little bit so it's a bit shorter. I'll try to cut that as straight as I can. All right, I think I'm going to glue this on. I love having pockets on the front of a journal, so I am actually going to glue this on kind of sideways. I don't know why I said sideways. I'm going to glue it on 3 sides. It's wanting to roll, so I'm trying not to get glue everywhere. I'll kind of center it. Okay. And see how I ended up layering the wallpaper over the fabric, which again, that's why I wanted to wait for decorating, just in case I wanted to do that, but you could totally do it however you want. Okay, and I have this really cute little vintage playing card. I was kind of inspired to use a playing card because she did, although she did such a cool thing where she cut out the center and made a little frame. Loved that, but I'm going to use this playing card as kind of my focal image here. And I don't know if I just want to put it down. I kind of like it like that. I have this too. I could like cut that off. Cause, oh, I kind of like this because it gives, I don't know if you can see this, it's like a little pretty scene. It might be hard to see right here. I sort of do like that. Yeah, let's go for that. Okay, again, I'm just folding where I need to cut. And actually, sorry, I'm gonna take it right on down to the trimmer here so that it's straight. Okay, now this is vellum, so I don't want to use wet glue, therefore I won't. I'm going to use some double-sided tape. And why not add another pocket, right? So I'm just going to glue, or no, I'm going to tape it on, but I'll just add the tape to the 3 sides. When in doubt, pocket it out. I've always thought, are there any junk journal channels on YouTube that actually make merch? I've thought about it for years, but I have no idea what I would even do. Like, to make it not like super cheesy, but at the same time, like I'm like, is there a saying that I always say? And of course, hey crafty cuties, like whoopsies, I just made a big mess. Anyways, by the way, I started that little saying as an actual joke. I thought it was so funny when YouTube channels had like a name for their subscribers. And I was making fun of it, which is like, it's just funny that it stuck. And now people like, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't maybe know that. Anyways, so I wouldn't really want that as merch, but okay. I just realized too, if I tape this all the way down, then I am blocking the pocket right here, but that's okay. I'm just, again, we don't want this to be stressful. So I'm going to try to put it in the center here best I can. That's okay, because we still have a little access right there. And I'm just trying to grab something so I can show you. But do I even have a small tag? Anyways, you get it. There's a pocket here, and a pocket on there. Okay. And then this, I think I'm just going to kind of put like right there. But maybe I'll add this tiniest amount of cheesecloth. Just like that. Yep. Okay. And since we're gluing down on vellum, once again, I am just going to use some double-sided tape. I just don't like, sometimes when you use a wet adhesive, it will add a little bit of bubbling. Okay. I'm doing this very messy because I'm like so excited to be done with this. Do you ever try to rush through a project, or is, nah, that's all of us. I know it is. I know it's you too. Okay. Whoops. There we go. So I think I can just glue right down on the cheesecloth. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to wiggle you so much. So we have a pocket here. I'm not going to put anything in it right now. We have two little pockets, which, you know, I could use those for some small tags or something like that as I'm walking over to get a small tag. Is this even small enough? I don't think it is. So that was a bad demonstration. Let's forget I did that. Here is our final journal. I love how this came together. Honestly, I hope that you will give this a try. Oh yeah, I wanted to. I will probably end up decorating, you know, a little bit more of this as the time goes on. This is going to be a really fun journal to work in. That doesn't want to stay shut. And I think that it's going to be a really easy journal to work in. We're going to staple, staple. And look at this. I think this is where we're going to add our little, oh, that's perfect because it has a little, I'm saying half sentences, I'm sorry. I started the day out with not feeling very great. Okay, there. We have a little flip, and then you still have the pocket there. Yeah, this closes so nice and flat. I love this. This turned out, it was honestly so easy, fun, a perfect journal to add all of those little things that you've been holding on to, different pages and things like that. And I really hope that you will give this a try. If you do, let me know about it. And feel free to leave me a comment down below, even if you don't plan to make one of these. Just say hello. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Bye.